All right, this is Eric Howley with another episode of Lessons in Loss, Love, and Resilience. And I've got my friend Nicole here, who we just did this a couple of weeks ago. And as soon as we got off, we're like, gosh, there was so much more we could talk about. And so we're going to have a little fun today to try something different. Fun in grief, by the way, in resilience. But going to have a little fun today. Nicole wanted to throw some things back at, to have some discussion on some other topics that I don't usually hit, but are still kind of in the same scenario. So Nicole, thanks for joining me again. Good
You're
to have you back.
welcome.
We can make fun
Yeah.
of Drew again if we want.
I mean,
Both of us,
look,
both of us got our boys home from school, so that's good. They're home and for a little
yeah,
time and go from there. So,
so good.
so
Yeah. Yeah, I've had this like running conversation kind of ever since we talked last time, and I've been taking notes. And you and I always enjoy talking about the connections that we have, I think, in our faith journeys, and have bonded over those stories with, what you experienced when you lost Elena, and just the way, in different ways that like she came through various things, right? And
mhm,
so I felt
mhm.
like we didn't get too much into that last conversation, but um thinking about how those experiences happened in my life, I realized for me there were different phases of accessibility to my mom's spirit. And I'm kind of curious in hindsight, if you reflect, like, have you noticed that? Like, was there different types of encounters in different phases of this?
Yeah, I mean, and obviously that's a question that there has been for you too. So we get to hear your version after. I'd say yes. In the beginning, I felt like I would dream and it would be super present. I think I might have mentioned to you about where I felt her embrace, like she would always
Mhm.
come and kind of side hug, lay half on top of me, because I was already half in bed because of getting up early for work. And I remember waking up just in tears because I had felt her presence. Um, a lot of music, things on my phone, a lot of things now. I mean, ironically, even to this day, I'll hear someone. Now we have multiple soccer players that live with us, um, but nobody will be here, and I'll still hear certain doors closing, certain kind of movements as if somebody's walking in the hallway. But I don't take that as like in a way of haunted, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, at all, like, I just look at 'em like, "All right," and so there's that. It's a lot less frequent now, but I think it's also one of those. I was so deeply seeking that connection
Mhm.
early on, especially once I had kind of witnessed it the first time or so, that now I think you go in your day to day. But if I was actually taking the time to be super present, I'm sure I'd even notice it more. It's just gotten to where
Mhm.
now I'm used to it, like the little
Mhm.
things that happen. So yeah, I'd say definitely a lot more before, especially after the raw nature of it kind of wore off, maybe, a
Mhm.
couple months in, and then, really me on my faith journey at that point, trying to figure stuff out and go from there. And then my experiences with speaking to the friend Nikki, who's the medium that I think we spoke about, that I'm
Mhm.
super skeptical. I've spoken to her a few times, and every time she blows my mind with the stuff that she says that nobody would know. And so that's where, I mean, I think the one that I don't know if I told you, did I tell you that one where she mentioned about the bracelets?
Mhm.
Okay. And then the other time when I got on the phone with her, she tells me this story about, Elena's boyfriend and this inside joke
Yeah.
that they had. So I'm just going like, I don't know. So since then I've spoken to her a couple of other times, very far in between. But it's always, it just makes me realize there's just a lot we don't know. So whether you're affiliated,
Yeah.
and in my mind, like whether you're affiliated with any religion, this is not about religiosity.
No.
Religiosity is when man
No.
comes into the fit place. It's more of the understanding of a faith journey and respecting that for each person as we're all on our own journey,
Yeah.
and trying to go from there.
Like,
So
so
what was yours?
would you say that those encounters, like, there was also the envelope story, right, on the piano, and
Mhm.
those how would you say those things in hindsight impacted your spiritual beliefs prior to that?
Well, I mean, prior, my struggle with religion, specifically with religion, not because I wasn't even like consideration of belief, it was that I had friends in multiple different religions, you know, Catholic, Christian, Buddhist, Mormon, you name it, all different denominations of Christianity, atheist, agnostic. And some of them, quite a few of them were extremely intelligent individuals. And I'm like, man, all of you are wrong except for one of you. One of you is right and everybody else is wrong. And I was seeking like which one was right and that everybody else is wrong. And then after losing Elena, I really looked at it in a kind of the opposite side of the table. And I was like, well, what if actually none of them are wrong? What if
Mhm.
everybody's right? We're all on our own journey. And that kind of came with the my understanding of religion before was it was kind of like, hey, show me a sign so I know it's real kind of a thing, which many people have probably said, right? And before I used to think as long as it was, you know, like I could touch it, like this mug exists, the coffee exists because I'm drinking it right now. But I would think that as long as I can sense it, it exists. And now I look at it and go like, just because I can't sense it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You know, it kind of
Mhm.
goes back to that if a tree falls in the woods, does it really make a sound? You know, kind of a concept because it's this theology of understanding of, you know, like just because it's different, just because it's out of our mindset, um, and so I try to respect that in that way. And so, you know, my religiosity is more affiliated towards the Christian side of it in terms of my understanding and my perception. Um, but I don't look at any of the other religions and say, you're wrong, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, so I look at that and just go like, look, it's not my job to judge. My job is just to do what I can to be a good person and a good human being. And I've seen like all religions have their, I mean, look at what's happening with the religious zealots that are happening around the world, right? They're doing it in the name of
Yeah.
religion. And we've got such horrors happening that, you know, that just seems unfathomable. But
Yeah.
so what about for you? How does that
Well
play in?
I mean, for me, I really separate, like, spirit and religion. That's just right or wrong. Um, I think, in the same vein as you, it's like we're all right. Like, it's to me, it's within us, right? It's like, God is within me. It's not outside of me. I understand, like, the structure of religious
Mhm.
beliefs can be beneficial. Um, and I think, and my mom definitely modeled this, that, you know, we all have God within us, and I think that I told you, you know, last time we talked that losing her, even though that kind of belief was embedded in me, I think that sort of initial shock and, um numbness in a way just scared me because at first, you know, there was like, the spirit kind of I think her spirit kinda grabbed me and, like, drew me down there to be there, right? That was sort of like that's very clear to me that, something outside of me, God, my mom's spirit, got me there to be with her that day. And,
Mhm.
um,
And
and
for those
then
people that didn't hear the first part of this, is the short version is something in you when your mom in her cancer journey and she was fine, something in you, you were like, I got to go see my mom. And your husband, Drew, who's a good friend of mine, turned and said, yeah, go. And you showed up and it was within 24 hours that so it was, but
Mhm.
something drew you that way. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, like, and I was aware that there was something big happening, right? But not like I wasn't like, "Oh, I'm going to, like, say goodbye to my mom," but it just I could feel the presence of something on me drawing me there in the moment.
Hmm.
But then that shock and realizing, like, I have to if I can't find her now spiritually in this, you know, aftermath, like, what does that mean for my belief system? And I did, and you know, I shared that story of that one day on the yoga mat, similar to your experience in bed, just like it might sound crazy, but I know I could feel her in me
Hmm.
that moment and her hand on my heart, and then having that. moment that same night. And
Hmm.
so, but so then there was kind of phases after that of the way she would show up. Um, and some of it was lucid dreams. And I'd have a dream about her, and I knew she was gone. So in my dream, I was like, I'm just gonna like hug you and just like soak you up, as much as I can in my dream, even though in the dream she's there, but I
Yeah.
knew. And so I was just soaking it up. And so there was like maybe about a year of like that. And then there was this phase of her being very elusive in my dreams. So like just really tricky and like and I share this with a friend, actually one of my cousins who is she's very like psychic, and she does readings and stuff, and she was like, it's probably she's like ascending, right? Like it's like she's moving into a different phase of
Hmm.
her spiritual ascension, and that sort of
Hmm.
the manifestation. And I thought that was so cool because it actually does resonate with my belief system that, you know, we are making our way somewhere, and that
Hmm.
we don't exactly understand what those phases might be, but that felt like a very good illustration to me of, that timeline. Um and I think, that's why I wanted to ask you that, because I think that there were these very, Elena, close to home encounters in those early times, right?
Hmm.
And now it's just different, but like I liked the idea that they sort of, from like an angelic standpoint, are sort of like
Hmm.
like making their way.
Yeah.
And I think I
Yeah.
told you, like my mom, she told me when she couldn't speak and she's leaving her body, she's going. And that to me
Yeah.
was this illustration. It's like, I'm going. And
Yeah.
she seemed ready for that.
Yeah. Well, and ironically, we talked about this when we were on before, but it, it just popped up on my phone this morning. I'm not on social media a ton, but I popped up in a friend, Kelsey Kapuff, who she was on. She was one of the first people I had on. She's a death doula. And she had even talked about how she'd been there where people talked about these were recognized as hallucinations of kind of in the end. But the question is she goes, are they really hallucinations, or is it that clarity and lucidity that you're having right before? Like when you said, like, I know you think somebody might think I'm crazy. Well, they can think they're crazy or not. You know that happened, right? Your experience was the sense that you felt her hand there. There's nobody
Hmm.
that can deny that from you. Like they
Hmm.
can say you didn't really feel it. Your brain was, it's like, okay, if you could prove that to me, that would be great. But I know you
Hmm.
can't because you weren't there. Right.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, these are probably the same people that say this doesn't exist, like ghosts or things of the sort. And I mean, I've had a personal experience that it did. And there was four
Hmm.
of us there who were like, what's happening? And so it's one of those things that we just, you don't really need other people to give you permission to
Yeah.
believe what you believe and what you had happen. Um, and I think, yeah, for us, it was the moments, it was the music, it was the things that happened that just blew my mind. And I think on top of it, it's understanding that we don't really have to have all the answers. Like when people tell me, oh, God has a plan, I look at him, I'm like, or he's just in charge of organized chaos. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, I mean, in the end, we're the ones that need the plan. We need to
Yeah.
know, like, when is this going to happen? Because otherwise we don't know how to do it. Well, then, so live every day as if it's your last, and be kind to people and make those amends with those people that really, if you think about it, does it
Hmm.
really matter that you said something to your sister and now you guys haven't spoken forever? Or is it worth, and if they don't want to accept that, then that's fine. But you said what you needed to say to kind of like, hey, I wanted to try to, and it's not a matter of being right. It's a matter of moving forward together. Like, hey, this is a part that we couldn't agree on politics. And you're a
Hmm.
big Trump fan and I'm not, or whatever. But you look at those things and say, like, that shouldn't divide somebody that you have a relationship, a friendship, like,
Hmm.
and I say that like the Trump scenario, it's more of like just politics, it's religion, it's all these things that can be so polarizing that people then dig in their feet and you look and go like, well, Nicole, you have the right to your opinion. I have the right to mine. We can still be friends. We can still love each other
Mhm.
and see things differently. So people to look at you and think, I don't know if I believe her or, and it's funny because there's people that are in my life that I remember hearing others before Elena, people say to others, oh, she's a little woo woo. She's a little like, you know what I mean? And then you like when you actually get and sit down and have a conversation with this person, you're like, oh my gosh, she's awesome. Like she's just really super present and open minded. And honestly, I don't know if she's right or wrong anyway, but I like that
Mhm.
fact versus before it was like, well, that can't be real because it just doesn't seem right. So I've made my judgment. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's like just living from your heart, right? When you're in your heart, like you can see the humanity of another person in front of you. I think it's all the stuff that gets in people's heads. And I think, back to the spirit stuff, I think it's not a judgment of anyone who doesn't have that. I know for myself that that's my tether to something, right? That gives me this
Mhm.
tether, and, like, I can only, like, get so far away from that before and I do, right? And then I realize, like, I gotta get myself back into my heart to where I can feel things, not just think things, and
Right.
we have such a responsibility, especially today in the world that we're living in. Like, we can have so many open, like, cords, like, running through our brain, like, all these conversations and all this
Mhm.
information, and, like, we really have to actively manage that to get back,
Push.
like,
Yeah. You
cut
got
the
to clear some
cords.
of
You
it
have
out.
to cut
Yeah.
the cords.
Yeah. Well, and Nicole, it's funny because Hannah looked at me the other day. I don't want to say in amazement, but it was one of those something came over me and I just turned to a friend whose son is fighting cancer and it's been a long fight. And I just randomly just said, hey, and she's been putting out these fun videos about like playing music and he's dancing and they're dancing together and they're going on like, and there's, like, and you can see he's in a fight, he's in a fight for his life and has been. And I sent her a message and I just said, hey, I just really want to want you to know that it means a lot to see for people to see that you can walk this journey with grief and you can live every single moment. And if you do, there's so much like look at all the smiles and the laughter and stuff that you're having. I just think it's awesome. I love that you're putting these posts out there because some people need this in their life. And she's like, "Oh, thank you. That means a lot." And then like 3 days later, and I hadn't communicated with her in a few months, right? Couple days later, um, I just said, "Hey, I'm just thinking about you and your son today." And um, she's like, she basically said, "I'm sorry I didn't respond right away. Hospice is here." And this is a 22-year-old or 23-year-old. And that's obviously a sign when hospice is brought in. And earlier in that day, I had plans for dinner. This is literally a week ago today. I had plans for dinner, and for whatever reason, I just turned out of nowhere, and I was like, "Nope, I'm gonna make lasagna." And I ended up making like a huge amount. Now I'm always feeding multiple people in the house,
Yeah.
but I made a huge amount, and so um, as I'm driving to go to something like to meet up with Hannah for an event, um, she texts me back and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for da da da. Hospice is here." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize." And then I was like, "I know this sounds crazy, but I just made an entire lasagna and there's like half of it left." And I know it seems weird for me to go like, "Do you want me to bring like," and her response was, "That would be amazing." And I'm thinking
Aw.
like, and so Hannah just looks like when Hannah sees this later, she kind of just I just said, I don't know what came over me of wanting to message her and why I wanted to out of like we had a plan for dinner and usually like once this is the
Mhm.
kind of what we've got in mind, it's just easier to just stick with it. Because whenever I veer from it, usually Hannah's like, why did you veer from it? So anyway, I just said, I don't know what got into me. And she's like, or maybe you do. Like maybe, and And I'm like, who knows, right? And I don't know what came over me of wanting to do this. And it's happened 3 or 4 times now that in the last few years where I've done it. Now, I'm not saying it because God's speaking to me and saying, like, there's just a piece where when you just you connect with humanity, like
Yeah.
reach out to your friends and see, say hello and see how they are. And you
Yeah.
just never know when that, I mean, there's been people that have come up to me and said, what you told me helped me in my grief. And I looked at them and I'm like, what did
What
I
did I say?
say? Like, because it's just a conversation. To me, it's just a conversation, but I'm being open about it. I'm walking this
Mhm.
grief journey with people. And so it was just one of those moments where that's part of that spirituality piece, right? Where
Mhm.
while faith and religion are correlated, they're also very different. And it's understanding that all
Yeah.
of those factors are just, sometimes it's just being present and such too. So, no, that's awesome.
That's
Sorry,
what
when
I
I,
would call like a touchstone, which is one of my like pillars of grief, right? It's like
Mhm.
you need sometimes something to just ground your energy in the moment. And
Mhm.
it's like I try to explain it sometimes, like, those like energy balls they used to have, like sharper image, and like you just had to put your hand on it, like it's like all crazy. There's like sometimes that you just need that like hand just to
Yeah.
settle you and to and I'm sure just knowing you, right? It's like anytime you have an opportunity to see someone else's process and take a bit away from it, that like becomes a part of you, like
Right.
watching the way you and Hannah and Alex have moved through this, you kind of go like, wow, that was incredibly painful, and yet like here they are showing up in this way, and it like plants this seed for other people. Like when a few years before my mom passed, I watched one of my best friends lose her mom, and I think you spoke about this in the book, because it was this experience. The first time I saw her after she lost her, I was like, whoa, like she took this strength and grace in the moment, like it just like became her. And that's not to
Mhm.
say she didn't have very painful and ugly moments, but like there was this tangible strength and grace about her that planted a seed in me that like I can do it that way too, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, so yeah, I think,
Well,
you
it's
know,
funny that you say that about the book too, is because you had said something about the book. So where are you in the process? Are you going that
well, I
route
mean,
or
you probably know me well enough to know I have like lots of little like ideas, but this has been brewing for a while. I mean, I go,
there is nothing little in your family. Your son is 6'10" and the other one's 6'7". That's like
yeah. Well, anyway, so I love to write. I don't I to For me, like I really, when I'm really like managing my chords and tending to spiritual practice of like just feeling and melting everything else away, I then express. And so I go through phases of that. And so I've been writing, and I've thought about writing a book. And I think the combination of reading your book and like kind of being taken aback a little bit that you wanted to have me on here kind of just made me think like, oh, you know what? Maybe like this is this is something I want to do, because all of a sudden the thoughts are in my head. And coincidentally, I think you know this, but I am designing a house, helping my brother design a house right now in Mexico. And when I lost my mom, we were in the early phases of designing our house in Danville, and she was an interior designer. She was so incredibly talented, and it was gonna be this incredible experience for the 2 of us, the 3 of us, my in-laws included, all of us. We were all gonna have this experience together, and my mom was definitely gonna play a big role in that, and we lost her, and in my grief, I had to find her, and it was such a beautiful experience for me that I had to move, which I think is such a important traumatic response, right? You had like it took
Mhm.
a little time, but the movement is so important to, you know, to manage the feelings. And
Yeah.
I and we I had to start doing that. And that just became this incredible experience for me of like listening and finding her and just letting it come through my hands and my heart, this,
Mhm.
expression of the house. And then feeling just so proud of it and like knowing that she was there with me for that. And so now 15 years later, helping my brother with this house and like I said on the last one, like all of us have different sort of characteristics of her. And my brother has these like really beautiful characteristics of my mom in terms of his like
Mhm.
aesthetic. And so it's like this, it sort of feels like bookends in a way because like I have this contrast of designing 15 years ago and like in the rawness and now like standing in what I feel like was a gift infused in me when I lost her that like I do have a pretty good ability to do this work. And I love it.
The house was awesome. I remember going like, wow, this is so like just the fire, like the elements that you guys added in, well, that you did was just so, it was awesome. I was
Thanks.
super jealous. I'm walking around going, this is so nice. Like I need to
Thank
do
you.
a renovation and we can't afford it right now.
Well, how about you come to Mexico and see the Mexico house then?
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Well,
that so
so
anyway,
so
so and it's pretty cool because I mean, this like the just the process of knowing I was coming on here with you, I really wanted to sit down and put my thoughts together on it. And because she was an interior designer, her her company was called Imprints Interior Design, and it's like that was her forever name, and it's like it's such a meaningful name, especially in like the
Mhm.
wake of her loss and realizing how many lives and homes she imprinted. And so the
Yeah,
structure of the book is based on like renovation and it's totally coming together. I'm pretty excited about it.
love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do you have what are you thinking for a title? Like Imprints on My Heart, Imprints, like
I'm actually thinking imprints interior design because it's actually like a play on like our interior design and how we
Mhm.
handle things. And in my mom's case, there's a whole history that feels very important to me. Just she had a pretty traumatic childhood and
Mhm.
how that shaped her, the lessons I learned through her trying to heal that. And I know you liked my comment last time about, this is a wound that we don't want to heal, right? Well, she had some wounds that she wishes she would have been able to heal. And even on like the last day of being with her, she said she couldn't heal them and that's what killed her.
Yeah,
Um, and so there's a lot to untangle
right.
there for me because, um, I do have strong beliefs in our holistic health and so there's a lot to talk about.
Well, and I would give you this advice, but talk to a professional is the only thing is if this book is for you. Now, a lot of people I've spoken to, they're like, I'm writing a book that I want to write. And if I sell a copy, great. If I don't, I'm going to gift it. I'm doing this more for me. The only thing is if you did want it to be for people, which I think you're going to have a very strong reason why people could help in reading your story and knowing your story, just from the parts that I know, is in the search, because it'll have interior design in it, I think you'll get a lot of people
Oh,
confused,
okay.
right? Like
That's
not
real
that
good
now,
point.
like it did I there you are. So
Okay, good.
but I say that because I was learning too, like in terms of certain things that I did, even in something as like it was lessons. It's always November. Lessons in Lost Love and Resilience is the subtitle, and then it's like a memoir, and then below it it has a father's story. Partly because as a memoir, most of the time people want to hear from Jamie Foxx and whoever, like celebrities in a memoir. They don't really care about some random guy. Like,
Yeah.
why do I care about a memoir? It's not Winston Churchill or, a president of the United, somebody important. And so it was understanding that we actually had to go, like, especially because it's kind of, there's a spirituality piece, there's a self help piece, and that you
Mhm.
kind of look into that. But I think you could have a fun play on imprints, interior design, where imprints on my interior, like imprints on your
Mhm.
interior, a design by, whatever, like you could have a little fun with it because as much as calling it the same means a lot to you, the reader won't have any idea,
Yeah.
but
No,
that
that's
could
great.
be,
Yeah.
you know, now I would say, and I think I mentioned it to you before, the best I just was talking to somebody yesterday who's also working on a book. And I said, I think the best advice I got was from my writing coach, Holly, was just if there's points where you're just thinking, just write it down, like just tell stories. Those can be woven in if they make sense. If they don't help the story, they can, but once they start coming, don't think about, well, wait, I need to write this next. Like don't
Mhm.
hold back those as they come, and just let that flow in that way, and then and go from there.
Okay. Good
So that's
advice.
exciting,
I'm sure I'll
exciting
be reaching
stuff.
out to you at some point.
Yes, yes, it's exciting stuff. Um, so yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, what other? Yeah, I wore this for you, by the way. The
I
peppermint
noticed
goalkeeper.
that.
You like that?
Nice. I
So
love it.
I was I was like, "What am I wearing today?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm wearing my Pepperdine shirt for Nicole. I haven't worn this in forever." So,
Looks good on you.
so I'm just happy it still fits. I know when we went to the house, it was fun for me to see. I thought the house was awesome and had no idea that portion of the story. So now I remember seeing the water elements, the fire elements, the little things. I loved the very modern design and what it was. It was super unique, but so a lot of people think modern is not is cold, but it was
Mhm.
so warm in there. You know what I mean? Like there was such a really cool presence. But now that you tell me the story, that's awesome. It means even more in a
Okay.
way that I just didn't know that piece of it.
Yeah.
But that's really cool to hear it. I have no design abilities. Like you, I mean, I designed my own house. Ironically, I drew it. I drew the plans and then had an architect kind of come through and put it together. But I designed what I wanted with it. But when it came to all the elements and the tones and the colors, it was
Everyone
more for
loves
me.
your
It was the
house. You did
structure.
a great job. We all love
Well,
coming to
that
your house.
the structure of it worked, but the what went into it after, I let Hannah do it. Hannah walked in the first time and she's like, "So this looks like a 24-year-old guy designed the house, like in terms of the bathroom tiles and everything." I'm like, "Well, I mean, the, if the shoe fits."
Exactly.
Um, so, yeah, if
Um,
uh,
but
I know we did, and it was good to go back. There was some of there was pieces I know we touched on the spirituality piece and the moments that came in, and I remember us both going, "Gosh, I could have talked for hours on the signs that happened and the things of such." But
mhm.
so it was nice to catch back up on a few of those because there were some unanswered pieces in there that it was nice to do. So, well, Nicole,
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming back on. You were the first
Thanks.
person to hit part two. Drew paid me, but like you said, you were honored that Drew paid me $50. He's
I had a
like,
feeling. I definitely
yeah.
had a feeling.
I mean, I'm gonna send him my Venmo later. Um, but no, I appreciate you coming back on and sharing your story. I think the important thing that I see in every one of these times that people are on is, grief is different for each of us. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
a child. It can be, I mean, parent, a spouse, you name it. And actually, I had somebody on recently too that had lost her child at childbirth, and so just even hearing her story on how she was so, it's really interesting in my mind to see how these play out and how we're all on a different grief journey, and then how we've each handled it. And so I appreciate you sharing your story and being open to that,
Aw.
and
Well,
going
I
from there.
appreciate
So
you sharing so much. You're making such a big difference.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's another episode of Lessons in Loss, Love, and Resilience. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.